G'day folks, MBS here. My alternator shit itself the other day when I was doing a review video on the engine guard, and now it was time to replace it. So today's the next day, and I've managed to take it off, but not easily. And now this will pertain to only Land Cruisers and Toyota coaster buses, anything with a 1HZ engine in it, I guess, with aircon. Because the aircon's got the same sort of adjusting bracketry design, and we're going to show you where it all goes horribly wrong for you. Now I've got it out, not a problem, but we've stripped the thread in the end here of the alternator. There's a thread in there which is your adjuster. It's a really long bolt, and it's got a little slider bracket that bolts up into here. After you've finished adjusting the alternator, you then tighten the bolt here, and that locks it all up for you. When you're adjusting them, you just loosen that bolt, you don't take it out, and then you're able to adjust that really long bolt and slide the alternator to make it tighter. Generally you're making it tighter after you fit it, but when you're removing the alternator, you need to move that long bolt out so that you can push the alternator in to get the belts off. The problem comes with that adjuster. Okay, we're going to try and get the camera up in here and show you what's happened to the adjuster apart from this thread stripping out. So we've got to replace that bolt. We've got the new alternator. So I'll get the camera up in here and show you what's going on up inside here. Alright, here's the adjuster unit. There's the bolt that goes into the alternator. As you can see, it's stripped in here, nice and shiny. It's taken the aluminium out of the thread in the alternator. Now this adjusts this up and down, so this head will usually be there. So that's the position of the alternator there right now. If you want to tighten the belt, you tighten this big screw up, and this slider moves up and pulls the alternator belt tighter. Okay, and then it's the other way around when you want to loosen it to get it off. But this long bolt is seized in the slider, and it's already twisting and just about to break off. So I'm going to force the situation, just snap it, because I'm getting new ones from Japan. Not a problem. And now the aircon is exactly the same. You'll see right up the back there, if I can get the light onto it, right up in there, there's a long bolt, and that goes through that pulley, which is your idler pulley for the aircon, and it's likely to be seized too, so I've ordered a long bolt and a new pulley for that while I'm down here working on it. Yeah, but that's what can usually go wrong with these, with the 1HZ, just so that you're aware in case you can't adjust your alternator and you're moving this bolt. It should be nice and free when you loosen this main bolt for your adjustment. Alright guys, that's all I wanted to show you, just as a little bit of info for the coaster and Land Cruiser owners of the 1HZ. Okay, that's about it. Oh goody, all my parts have turned up that I need for this alternator job. We've got a new slider, we've got a bolt that goes with that slider, we've got the long bolt for the air conditioner, and we've got a new pulley. Now I waited for this pulley to arrive, so I made sure that I got this whole contraption before I snap this bolt off, because it's not coming out of this thread here, and I've still got about that much to pull through, which indicates to me this bolt is way too long for the coaster. Now this long bolt may be fitted to a Land Cruiser that's got a larger diameter pulley, so it needs to drop this further to loosen the air conditioning belt. In my case, like I've still had that much thread left over, and I could easily get the belt off, so I'm even considering probably chopping 1.5 inches off this, so it's not so long, because it's unnecessary for the coaster. But as I said, in a Land Cruiser they may have a bigger pulley which will require a longer bolt. Alright, I'll throw all the part numbers up for these for you and where I get these parts from. I've got parts AQ or something, and Mega Zip I get these from. These ones all came from the Parts Q because they were available, and they were slightly cheaper. Now these are all genuine and quite decent prices too when you have a look at compare it to your dealership. You'll probably find your dealership is charging you a lot more, and that's including the freight to get all this up here. I believe this was only about $100 US for the lot, which isn't too bad. Alright, let's have a look at a few other things now. Okay. Now let's talk about comparing your alternators. When you get a replacement alternator, make sure it's the same, okay, in every detail. Make sure it's going to fit the vehicle. Now, I'd say this alternator that I picked up from JLAC is a multi-purpose alternator. For one, remember the bolt was the wrong size, the stud here for the electrical cable. I had to actually drill the eyelet out to accept it. Now in here it's only a 6mm bolt, this one 8mm bolt. So it doesn't matter, you can easily fix that. But what you want to make sure is the pulley's the same, it's the same diameter, okay? If this pulley's bigger, the belt might not be able to be fitted on. If it's too small, you might find you can't get the adjustment done properly. So that's when you start checking that you've got the right belt actually. That's the right part number belt, right length, if you have problems adjusting them. Other things you should check, obviously the width of the bottom bolt, the mounting bolt where it swings on. Alright, that's got to be the same. Alright, and of course you want where the slider attaches, the adjustment bolt, you want that to be in the same orientation. Okay, so this one's a little bit up and then off. So you've got to make sure that's okay too. Alright, now on this car, I'll show you the belts now on this. These are my new belts that are going to go on, and we'll have a look at the belt fitment in the groove of the pulley and what they should look like. Okay, old alternator, old V-belts. Look how deep these belts are going into the V-grooves. Way too deep, isn't it? Okay, that is a worn out belt. That's from slipping, okay, because the adjuster was seized here. That belt has been loose for a long time, nothing I could do about it because I couldn't move the adjuster. So probably, as luck would have it, it's probably a good thing the alternator packed it in, forced me to replace all these parts. So let's put a new belt in that groove, eh? Okay, that's a little bit different, isn't it? This is actually a good test to see if the actual grooves are worn out in the pulley itself. Alright, so have a good look at that. It's almost level, it's just sticking up a little bit. Now I'll put it into the new alternator. Okay, as you can see, that is sticking up a fair bit more. Alright, so that's a new pulley, new belt, and that's what they should look like. So if your belt is disappearing down into the pulley, it could be a belt, could be a worn out pulley, and when your belt slips, both components will actually wear a little bit. As I alluded to earlier, when you're checking the alternators are the same, you can definitely tell in this case that this is a multi-fit, because I got this plug adapter to put into the back of the alternator in case I had a round plug like this one. My plug is actually exactly like that, so I don't need this adapter. Maybe a Land Cruiser requires this, depending what model cruiser. Like the 1HZ has been out for a long time, so you know, a good 10-15 year span, so they're bound to change something in there, and this is an easy way out for them, just to throw in an adapter and throw you the 60 amp alternator. Everything bolts up exactly the same, it's just that stud in my case is the different size. And now I was just going to say, don't drill out the terminal. If you find that you've got one of these alternators and that stud is bigger than your original, don't try and drill it out, okay? You'll just twist and you'll just stuff that terminal up. You'll probably cut your fingers, yeah. not worth it. I ended up using an actual die grinder and just pushed it into the hole and spun it up until it bored its way through. Now another thing you could probably use, maybe one of these will work. These are the step drills that are available. This one's a little bit big, I'd go for a smaller one, but that might work for you. It won't bite in as much into the eye of the bolt, so that may work too. Alright, so yeah, the moral of the story here is don't try and use a sharp drill because it'll just tear everything to pieces. Okay, now I think that's about it for on the bench show and tell, and I'll get that on, and we might talk a little bit how tight do you do your fan belt. That's a hard one to show you, or try, because if you do your belts up too tight, you'll not only wear your bearing out in your alternator and any idler pulleys you may have. It just puts too much stress on everything, and the belts will stretch really quickly, so you've got to get that tension pretty right. Not loose that it's screaming, but not so tight that there's no deflection in the belt at all. So we'll see if we can explain that once I fit all this back up and it's time to tension it all up. Well, there is something that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's fitting these parts up. I'm using anti-seize lubricant copper. Okay, handy little pack that I carry around the bus with me. You must coat these threads with anti-seize, yeah? That thread in there, that's where the long bolt is going to screw into and pull this up and down. Okay, there's your slider that's going to slide up and down. Make sure that you've got the thread lubricated. And of course, in the alternator itself, where the short bolt that goes through here goes into the top of the alternator, make sure you've got never seize in that thread and that short bolt as well. Because as you know, I stripped this one. This one's, the thread's all pulled in there because it never had any anti-seize in there. Very, very important if you want to be able to adjust the alternator, that this bolt comes undone without tearing the thread out of your alternator, and you want this to run smoothly inside the slider so it's not tight. Okie dokie, for Toyota Coaster owners only, you are going to have trouble getting this bolt out. It's too damn long, like I showed you in the parts video. Yeah, it's quite long. There's no way I'll be able to get that new bolt back in there. At the moment I'm bending this. I'm going to get a pair of multi-grips on it and bend it to get it out. But yeah, in a Land Cruiser you won't have this problem obviously. So yeah, so Toyota Coaster owners, beware. You are not going to extract that bolt unless you bend it to get it out, or it breaks when you're trying to pull it out. In my case, the damn thing didn't break, so I've had to extract it all the way out. And there you go, easy peasy. Just got a pair of multi-grips on it and just bent it. Now to cut the other one. I've definitely got to cut the other one, otherwise it's got no chance of fitting in. So we'll be taking about an inch off, and that would be enough for us. Okay, I took 25mm off the end of that bolt, and that bolt slipped in nice and easy, and it still reached the pulley thread. I still had about 10mm left before it wouldn't reach it anymore, so about 25mm, guys. This is for the Toyota Coaster owners only. So yeah, if you want to get that bolt out, you got to bend it, and if you want to get it back in, you got to cut the bolt shorter. Otherwise you got no chance. Okay, there's the assembly now. I've got the slider up there, I've got the new pulley and everything up there. I couldn't film me putting that together, so I'll just show you a couple of snapshots of me putting the air conditioner tensioner pulley in there, and yeah, that's all set to go. Now I've just got to fit my alternator up, and then we'll get back to how we adjust the belts. Okay, it's all fitted, and now we're ready to adjust it. But before I get into that, I've got to talk to you about the drama. Brand new belt, doesn't fit. That's what they recommended for my bus. but it's too short by about 10 mil. Okay, it's got a 7PK 1340, it should be a 50. So 10 mil short. I could have put it on. I could have used a screwdriver and forced it until it got into the grooves, but at the end of the day, my idler pulley would have been in the wrong position. Wouldn't have tensioned it as well as it should. Now this is the air conditioning serpentine belt. I know it's not the alternator, but since I'm doing them as a package, this is getting included as well. So yeah, had to go and spend 70 bucks and get the right length belt, and even it just slipped on with the tensioner pulley all the way down. Okay, so it's a good thing I didn't chop any more off that bolt, otherwise I wouldn't have even got that belt on. But yeah, I managed to just cut the right length off that bolt that allowed the pulley to go all the way down the slot to its minimum length and enabled me to get the belt on. Okay, so yeah, I think I mentioned something about belts right at the beginning somewhere in the video, being too small, too long. Even the wrong cross section, guys, you know, there's 10A, 11A, 13A, they're all different cross sections in the V. So these serpentines, they just go how many grooves they've got, so you can go from 3 grooves up to 7 grooves. I don't know if they make any more than that. But yeah, so as far as the alternator goes, this is a twin belt, V belt. So yeah, this is a little bit different to adjust because both belts have to be matched, okay, in this particular case, because we're running 2. Now for Land Cruisers also, I believe that you may not be running a serpentine belt for your air conditioner, because when I looked up the listing for this, it doesn't even show that this belt belongs to my bus, but it actually does. If I go looking up genuine parts, it is a serpentine belt. But when you go to the spare parts shops and they type in your rego number, they say you've got a serpentine belt on that, it should be a V belt. Yeah, well, I'm thinking that maybe you Land Cruiser guys have probably got V belts for your air conditioner. I'm not sure on that, but I definitely know in this bus it's definitely got a 7PK belt on it. Alternator belts are the same for the Land Cruiser as well as this coaster for the 1HZs, so you won't have any dramas there. Now, belt tension. This is a tricky one. If I started telling you how to adjust a belt technically correct, you'd stop watching my video. Honestly, it is painful, but it is a necessary evil. If you want to adjust your belt properly and get longevity out of it, then you must do it by the manufacturer's specifications. But who does that? I won't say nobody. There is some people out there that would probably use that tool. But basically what the tool does is you pick the longer side, okay? When you're adjusting belts, you look at the longer side from pulley to pulley. So in this bus, it's crankshaft to alternator is the longer section. Then we've got the water pump on top, and they're 2 short sections. So we're going to check the belt tension on the long side. On the AC, it is actually on the left-hand side between the crank and the air compressor. That's the long part of the belt, and then it goes over to the idler and then back down to the crank, and they're 2 short ones. So we're going to measure the belt tension in there. The correct specification for a belt is the deflection of the belt, how far it moves in or out at so much force. Alright, so we're not going to know how much force. It's going to be a finger test, okay? Push it with your finger and just calculate around about 7 pound of force. Alright, it's not much. I was taught one of the methods was to twist the belt. If it's a V belt, just twist it at 90 degrees. If you can get it to 90 degrees, or in fact, if you can get it past 90 degrees fairly easily, it's too loose. Alright, so you tighten your belt up a little bit. But I'm going to be using the deflection method. Just push it and see that it pushes in around about, in this case, around about the width of the belt. So we'll see if we can get the camera down there and have a look at that. And we're going to do the same for the AC, and it's going to be a deflection of probably around about 10 mil also. Alright, so let's have a look at that in action. Okay, because this is a twin belt, I can just push on one of the belts to check the adjustment. Now I'm just going to push it lightly, and there you see it's deflecting about the width of that belt. Just light force, 5 to 7 pound. That's a correctly adjusted belt. Okay, that should work out pretty good. When we go to the AC, about the same. We've got about 10 mil deflection there, so that should be a good tension. Alright, that's about the easiest way I could show you. Like now I can twist this and I can get it, but it's a little bit of effort to take it past 90 degrees, so I reckon that's pretty close. Well guys, that does it for the alternator replacement and the air conditioning bits and pieces we replaced. Hope that was helpful to you. Now please understand, this is a coaster I've been working on, not a Land Cruiser. Land Cruiser might have a few variations. Like I said, you probably don't have a serpentine belt on your air conditioner. No matter, it's all much the muchness. Doesn't matter what sort of belt it's got on it. You're pretty well adjusted, just like I did there, without any special tools. Alright, I think that does it for this one. I'll go and find another project to work on or something to find to fix, and we'll film that one. Catch you in another vid.